Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hour of Healing. We are here to again discuss another thought provoking topic. My name is Candice. I'm here again with Dr. Joe. Welcome in, Dr. Joe.
Thank you so much, Sister Candice.
How has your week been?
Absolutely. By God's grace, we've been doing very well. How about yourself?
Very good. Busy, busy, busy as usual, like you, but we keep pushing and pressing on. So God has been good. But yes, so today's topic is good intentions, bad outcomes. And, I don't know where we're going to go with this as usual, but God will lead the way. But one thing that just strikes in my mind is how, there's always good motives in doing something, but then by the time you open your eyes, you're like, wait, that's not what I meant to do. You hear that a lot. Oh, that was not my intention. Oh, that's not my intention. That's not. So we're going to find out if this is related to that. But that's what strikes my mind when I think about this topic. But Dr. Joseph, I'll hand it over to you as you take us through the process of how this came to be about and where we're going to go with this.
Yes, thank you so much once again, Sister Candice, for hosting us. And like you rightly said, our conversation today will really seek to bring healing to the phenomenon where we see a lot of good things being done, but yet still there is very little positive outcome. And I was meditating through scripture, and I believe it was in Hosea chapter 8, where God talks to the people of Judah and the people of Israel. At that time, those two kingdoms have already split. And he's telling them about the things that they are doing. And some of them are not necessarily wrong, but yet still there is judgment on it. And as I meditated, my mind began to drift through all the good deeds that we see people do in our world today. In fact, Sister Candice, we live in a world now where many people have good intentions. Many people want to see some positive changes. But the question is, why do we continue to see evil rising? Why do we continue to see bad things escalating? It's not that we don't see good things. And sometimes when you talk about things like this, people go to the biased nature of the media and things like that. But that's really not what we're talking about. The fact is, evil continues to increase and bad outcomes continue to increase, regardless of how much good practices there are. So as I meditated on these, there are a few things that I believe was impressed on me that we really hope to be able to bring healing to ourselves, our families, our communities, and to our regions when it comes to this phenomenon of many people having good intentions, but at the end of the day, it seems that the outcomes that we see just continues to be bad.
Yes, and I know we're going to get into the whys and things like that, but it makes you wonder, is a lot of people doing bad, or like what you are saying is good things or good intentions, but it's just the outcomes that are becoming like that. So without wasting time, I want us to get into why you think that is so.
Yes, Sister Candice, thank you so much for that powerful question. And yes, I believe that will be the cusp of our discussion today, and then we will see where God leads us after that. But there are a few things that really lead to this phenomenon that we notice. But first of all, let's give some background on what good intentions really are, right? So good intentions are not actions. And that's the first thing that I want our audience to understand. Good intentions has to do with motives, plans, thoughts, and that right away should inform us about something. One, having a good thought, having a good plan, having a good idea doesn't necessarily mean that you have a good action. It doesn't mean you have a good doing. So many of us have plans. We sit down, we plan, we have the very good motives to do something positive, something kind, something beneficial. But the truth is, at the end of the day, those are just plans or thoughts. Your good thought is only good because it has not coincided with reality. It has not coincided with the thoughts of others. Your good thoughts are good, or your motives are good, but they are good in a vacuum. When it comes into physical contact with the forces of nature, that is really where outcomes or practices are. And so that is the first thing I want our audience to understand, that yes, it's good to have motives, but you also have to understand that motives are just good in a vacuum. And reality is not just the physical world. Whenever we talk about reality, you are dealing with forces, you are dealing with systems, you are dealing with powers, you are dealing with physical things. And so, for instance, I can have an intention or a motive to bring cure to diabetes. I can have a motive to help people with diabetes. But what that motive is a good thought. It's a good plan. I will go about it A, B, C, and D. I will gather all the people with diabetes. I will make sure I feed them with the right kinds of food and all these things. But those are still just intentions. When they are brought to reality, now, what are the forces behind diabetes? Is diabetes just a medical condition? Is diabetes just something physical? Are all diabetics poor eaters? Are all diabetics people who don't take care of themselves? Science will already answer some of those questions for you to help you understand that no, not all diabetics eat bad. Not all diabetics don't take care of themselves. Not all diabetics are poor. Not all diabetics are people who need help necessarily. Not all diabetics are taking medicine. So this is the reality. And so right away, you find that even though your motives were good to bring healing to patients or people with diabetes, now, if you go ahead and just orchestrate the plan, as I alluded to earlier, right away, some people will suffer for it. Because they don't fit your plan. And so I just wanted to give that background to what really we are talking about when we talk about good intentions. And I will hand it back to Sister Candace before I even go into the whys we see the bad outcome.
Wow, so that's very interesting and profound that you mentioned that good intentions are not really the action aspect, right? But it's like an idea. It's like a thought, right? And, a lot of people say, like what I alluded to earlier, that was not my intention. So what they actually thought in their mind or the vision they had is not what happened when they brought it to life or when they had contact with physical things. And so it's taking me to other routes. Like, is it the mind? Is it that your intentions or the intentions you had was not fully thought about, right? It wasn't really executed well in your mind. So when it had contact with the physical realm or whatnot, the intentions or the outcome changed, right? Because why would we have good intention and then at the end of the day, the outcome is bad? I mean, it should be good. And this is leading me to the why again. It should be good. If I have a good motive, then the outcome should be good. But you made a statement earlier that the plan that you have for that person for the diabetes may not be the plan for them. And it's making me think with good intention, maybe the contact, right? The person that you are executing that idea with or towards, that idea may not be for that person. So the outcome becomes bad. For example, I may have good intention to help someone, to give them, say, $100, right? And then I give them the $100 and they make a big fuss about a whole bunch of things. So you gave me this money. They probably an addict. They bought this medication or they bought this drug and now they're hooked. They ended up in the hospital. God forbid something happens. That's a bad outcome of your good intention. So what I'm trying to allude to is was that the right person?
Mm.
Right? Maybe the $100 was for someone else so that your good intention can have good outcome. So I will hand it back to Dr. Joe so that he can take us through the whys. Maybe it can clarify a lot of what I've said and maybe emphasize more on even what I've said, because I'm thinking about if I have good intentions, why would that result be bad? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you so much, Sister Candice. And yes, you are right. That brings or takes us into the why. Because as I said earlier, good intentions are just thoughts, which means they are the things that drive what we do. They drive the actions. But truly, the outcome is the impact of those actions on others. That is really what we are looking at, right? And so you can have the right motive to give $100 to someone, but the outcome of that $100 you gave put somebody's health at risk because they used it for drugs in your example. And so what leads to this phenomenon that we see? Since this is Hour of Healing, we always talk about balance. So we will look at it, one, from the person with the intention, and then we will try, as we go through it, in some of these cases, try to merge it also with the person on the receiving end of these intentions, the one the action is geared towards. So the measurable outcome. And so one of the first things that results or lead to this phenomenon where we have good intentions but bad outcomes is misalignment. Misalignment. Outcomes or results are kingdom mandated things. You go through scripture, for those of our listeners who are Christians, you go through the Bible and you find out that right from the time that mankind was placed on earth, we were given a mandate, and the mandate was to be fruitful and multiply. That is outcome. That is a measurable outcome. That is an action by God's intention. And his intention was good, for us to be fruitful and for us to multiply. Now, this is where it becomes dicey. You find that because this was a kingdom mandate, every single one will be geared toward outcome. Everybody in the world, those born and died, those who are currently living, and those who will come after we are dead and gone, if the Lord should tarry, will always have this drive for results. But what we have to understand is that this mandate of outcome never came to be outside of the one who gave it. And so when God gave the mandate for man and woman to be fruitful and to multiply over the earth and fill it and have dominion over the earth, that outcome was never to be apart from God. It was always supposed to be in alignment with Him. That is truly the intention. And so when there is misalignment, then everything we do in order to have an outcome already has a faulty foundation. And again, if the foundation be shaken, what will the superstructure do? If the foundation is corrupted, then I'm sorry, but no matter what we put on that foundation, no matter how beautiful it is or how attractive it looks like, will be shaken. And so that brings us to a lot of all that we see. Sister Candice, many people do humanitarian things. Many people do charitable things. And whereas from the lens of our eyes, they look good, if it is not to lead to the eternal home or the eternal salvation life of the people we are doing it for, it is a good intention, but the outcome is still bad. And this will ruffle a lot of feathers. This will offend a lot of people. I want you to hear what we are saying. It's not the humanitarian act that is a problem. The intention is not the problem. The action is not the problem. I want you to understand doing humanitarian things is good, is godly, and everyone should want and desire and plan and hope to be able to do so. That is part of why we are here. But if you go and build bridges, if you go and dig wells for nations, for people, if you provide food for people, without at the end of the day, the intention of doing that being that their eternal souls will be saved, your outcome is still bad. And it took a long time, dear audience, for me to be able to wrap my mind around this. But the truth is, everything we do must have eternity in focus. And so when we are doing anything to quote unquote help anyone in life, the question is, what is the state of their eternity? And this, I will say to the one who has been called to the missions field, the one who has been called to the charitable organization, and they are currently in a state where they are unable to perform or do that work. Because sometimes we might feel that we have a calling to help nations or to help the poor, to feed the homeless. But we find ourselves sitting on our couches without the means or the ability to do so. Well, to you, my dear missionary, because I call all these people missionaries. We are missionaries in America. We are missionaries outside America. We are missionaries in our homes and we are missionaries outside our homes. So to you, my dear missionary, this is what I say to you. Do you realize that you are as valuable to God sitting on your couch just as much as you are valuable to Him when you are in the war front distributing water and food and all this aid? Do you realize that? Why? Because in sitting on your couch, you are still as valuable to God in the sense that you are able to build the same relationship with God just as much as you will be able to build when you are out distributing all these things to people without even having necessarily as much time to pray and to fellowship with God. So if you miss out on the opportunity to deepen your relationship or your ability to know God well in sitting on your couch, then everything you will do when you are on that mission field becomes a bad outcome. This is very, very important. And so misalignment is the primary, I will say, primary reason why we have many good intentions, but the outcome continues to be bad. Let me balance that from the perspective of those who are, I would say, the others who are on the receiving end of those actions. Again, what is their alignment? No matter how many good supplies or how much good you receive from others, if you do not make the choice to align yourself for eternity, then you are a bad outcome. And so receive all the humanitarian aid you want. Let's go back to Sister Candace's example she gave us in giving $100 to someone who was in need. Now, the recipient of the $100 made this action a bad outcome. Why? Because they chose to not use it for the things that she gave it to them for, which was to buy food, to buy water, and maybe to buy medicine. Rather, they used it to buy a toxin that was on them, not on the giver of the medicine. But yes, still, the outcome is bad. I hope our audience understand that outcome, and I believe I've already defined this, that the outcome is the impact of the action, the results of the action. And so in the garden, when mankind was given this mandate for results, anything that we did outside of alignment with God will be a bad result.
Mm,
That is exactly what happened.
mm, mm,
So when we don't align with God, when we don't align with our eternity in sight, then Sister Candace, our good intentions will always undoubtedly yield a bad outcome.
mm, You know, but this is making me think that, so it's like you always have to be kind of cautious of, if you have a good intention, you have to be cautious of who you are partnering with, whether it be $100 or whatever. That's it. You know, you're partnering with them to bring a result. But the question that I'm trying to think about is, so who has more control over the outcome? Is it the
Mm.
recipient or the one who is given, or the carrier of the good intention or the recipient? Who determines the outcome, you know?
Wow. Very powerful question, Sister Candace. The answer might be very surprising to our audience, but I want to actually even comment on the first part of your comment, which is being cautious when you have good intention. You know, that is a very difficult place to be because the outcome does not always depend on the person who had the intention. You can only do so much. Because in my example with going on mission trips and things like that, you are going to do what will be beneficial to others, provided the intention is from the standpoint or is from the angle of having their eternity in mind. But yes, so they can reject it. They can still reject it. And so the outcome of the action that we do is dependent on our willingness to align with what the right motives are. And that's why I said misalignment, I believe, is the biggest reason why we have so many good intentions but bad outcome. Because if there is alignment, then the outcome will be good. But if there is misalignment, then the outcome will be bad. And so what has the most impact on the outcome is the alignment. Is the alignment. Is the motivation behind those intentions. Now, on the flip side, if the person with the intentions already had evil motivations, and so if your intention was already to give the $100 for that person to go buy toxins that will harm their body, then they aligned with your intention, which means the outcome in this case was positive because it's consistent with what their motivations are. I hope our audience understand this. So it's really the alignment. What is your alignment for doing what you are doing? Sister Candace, in the western part of the world, a lot of people do charitable things, but mostly it's for selfish gain. It's to gratify the self, whether it's financial gain, tax breaks, to gain notoriety or popularity, or to gain favor with others, to have people sing our praises. Those are all selfish gains. We're doing this so that people will know that we can do something. We're doing this so that people will know that we are good. Those are all selfish gains, which means that the alignment is all selfish gain. And so if I'm coming from this standpoint to have people know that I do good, I am charitable, and I go to, let's say, a different country, a third or fourth world country or whatever, a poor region, and I do good things, and the media goes and they capture it and it's everywhere, my outcome aligns with my intention. Which means that this is a positive outcome.
Right.
It may not be good, but it's still
aligned. Yeah.
And so the alignment is truly what has the most influence on the outcome.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, sometimes you hear people especially when they're doing a good deed or they're doing something that is to them is very valuable or important, in their speech or in their quest to explain why they're doing, they always allude to their motive. I'm doing this for you because, or I'm giving you this car because, or I want you to take this so that you can. So it's like, I think conscious or unconsciously, we try to communicate our intentions
Absolutely.
so that there will be alignment.
Alignment.
I don't want you to use this car for Ubering. I just, I'm giving you this car so that you can go to work. I mean, they may not say for Ubering, but they try to emphasize, oh, I'm only giving you this car so that you can go to work.
Yes. So
So that
they
there'll be
want
alignment. They want alignments. I'm trying to think to myself, is this something that we desire? Unconsciously, we desire to be aligned so that there will be a good outcome or a positive outcome.
Well, that actually will lead to my second point, because as I gave in the example with the garden, when we were given the mandate for results, you realize that it's a mandate, and if it's a mandate, then whether we like it or not, we will be drawn to it. We will have a desire for it. Now, we can choose not to, and that's the thing with mandates. We can choose not to, but at the end of the day, that desire will still be there. It will still be there. We are all created to be in relationship with God. And so, in our absence of relationship with God, we tend to feel that innate desire with things. So, sports team become one of those. You will see 50, 100,000 people, millions of people, in fact, stand at a stadium or gather around a sports event. And some of them, the things they will do, you will look and you are like, why are they doing that? I remember during the NFL, the American football season last year, my wife and I were watching a game. I believe it was in Chicago or something like that. And it was below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it's what? Over minus 17. Like
in the stadium?
Cold. And a man and what we presume to be his son, because it was a young boy next to him, they had taken off their clothes. And they are standing in this frigid, cold weather, cheering on their team, screaming. And you see the vapor coming out of their mouth. So you know they feel the cold, but they are doing it. The question is why? The why is because there is an innate desire for us to worship something, for us to pledge allegiance to something. And when we choose not to pledge that allegiance to God, and yes, it's a choice, it still is an allegiance, it's an innate drive in us. So we will rather worship our sports teams. And I'm sorry if you were that person or if you've done this before, but the truth is that is worship. That is worship. It doesn't have to be your sports team. Some of us, it's our kids or our families or our work. Whatever we will esteem to have the greatest allegiance or devotion from us in life is what we are worshiping. I'm not saying go and quit your job, but if your job takes precedence or takes the final authority over your life above your allegiance to God, then your job is your God. It might be a hard pill to swallow, but that is a pill and it has to be swallowed. So what is the second explanation to this? And that is we become hyper-focused on our intentions. We become hyper-focused on our intentions, our thoughts. When truly the focus has to be what is fueling our thoughts. What is the driving force behind the thoughts? What is the driving force behind the motive that I have to gift that car, to gift that money, to travel to a poor region? And what is fueling that? Am I doing that because it is a mandate for me to align people with God? Am I doing that because my mandate is to ensure that everyone knows that Jesus is Lord and he cares about our daily living? And if he cares about the daily living, then he chooses some, in this case me, to be a channel through which he will reach others. In this case, the person receiving what I'm doing. You know, Sister Candace, we become hyper-focused on the intention. And so we forget that when it comes to this kingdom of God, election is not discrimination or favoritism. Being chosen by God
It's not.
is not an act of favor to you, but we are elected to be a channel for others. In the world system, elect is favoritism. But in God's system, when he chooses, for instance, God chose Israel, one nation, to be the means through which he will reach all the other nations. And so election in God is really a service to others. But when you become focused on your intentions, then you are focused on the fact that I was chosen, I was the one blessed. It becomes an issue of favoritism. I was the one God picked. I was the one who God blessed to have all that knowledge. And so it becomes me, I.
I was the one favored.
This is what God did for me. And so rather than becoming a channel through which God reaches the masses, you become a channel through which you become known to the masses. So becoming hyper-focused on our intentions deviates or drifts us away from the true calling of our intentions. For the sake of time, I want to talk about one more why, and then probably we will wrap up on our conversation today and then be able to pick up later when we have the chance to get together. And the third or fourth reason, Sister Candace, as to why there are so many good intentions, but yet bad outcomes is in the sense of lack of accountability. Lack of accountability. And this is very, very important and very, very crucial, because when we talk about accountability, there are a few things we are talking about. One, we are talking about consequences. Two, we are talking about feedback. Three, we are talking about communications or the channel of communication. All this happen on both sides. All this happen on both sides. So sometimes our alignment is right. Our intention is accurate or good. But yes, so the means or channel of communication is faulty. When this happens, Sister Candace, we still will have a bad outcome, even though we have the right alignment, even though we have the right intention. And so that will affect both sides. Why do I lump all this in accountability? Because it's in accountability where we find correct communication or right communication and poor communication. They both are in accountability. Being able to look objectively at the channel you are using to action that intention that you have is accountability. What about consequences? One of the things we do in our lack of accountability is that we fail to entertain complex or unexpected consequences that can come out of our actions. Sometimes because our intentions are good, we only look at the positive consequences. We only look at the good effects that our good intentions can have. But in being accountable, we are able to not only look at the positive effects, but also the negative effects as well. This also, Sister Candace, is part of true accountability. True accountability. And I believe in one of your examples, I had flipped it around. And the reason why I did that was this, that if you had entertained the possibility of having a negative effect, in this case, the person using that money to buy toxins, because money is a currency. And what we use currencies for is to exchange them for things. And so when we understand that we are given a currency, and that currency can be exchanged for good or bad things, then we can understand, or we can be truly accountable for giving that currency. If we don't take the positive and negative effect into account, then our outcomes can become bad, even though our intentions are good. And then the other thing I believe I listed was feedback. And this is so important. And sometimes the way this actually comes up is actually even funny. That sometimes we think our intentions are so good that we would dismiss even good feedback. Criticisms are not always bad, my dear audience. Criticisms are things that are always to be taken in, looked at, and then some absorbed and some thrown away. If you find yourself throwing away every criticism, then, my dear audience, you can have all the good intentions you want. You can have the right alignment in place for that matter. But yet still, you will find yourself having bad outcomes because you are neglecting feedback. Feedback is a very crucial thing when it comes to accountability. When we say someone is accountable for their actions, one of the things we are saying is they are taking both good and bad feedback and looking at those feedbacks and seeing which one is applicable. You don't have to accept them all, but you have to take it in and look at them. If you don't, then you are not being accountable. And if there is no accountability, then our good intentions, despite our good alignment or right alignment, will or can still yield negative or bad outcomes. And so, Sister Candace, for the sake of time, these are the three things that I want to share with our audience. And then if you have any other questions, we will try to quickly address that and go from there. Thank you.
Wow, that's very powerful. It has clarified a lot of things. And I'm thinking to myself how with accountability, that's one of the things that always bites us in our butt with a lot of things that we are doing. A lot of things we are thinking and a lot of things we are doing, both in the action and even in the thought. Accountability is very, very crucial in every aspect.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes we get on a high horse and we feel like we don't need to be accountable to anyone we don't need to be accountable about anything. And that kind of, like Dr. Joe was trying to explain before, I think that sets everything on a path that is not what it's intended to be.
Absolutely.
You can even have a good intention, but dismissing accountability leaves room, to me, I believe it creates room or it opens door for the outcome to be bad. Because at the end of the day, with our ideas, we work with people, So being accountable helps check yourself, check others, and it helps the outcome get to where you both want it to be, or the desired outcome. So I think this is the last part really hit home with me, and that's because that's what I see around me almost everywhere. We don't want to answer to anybody.
I mentioned that I will try to balance it with the recipient of these actions. And so as you were talking, I actually just realized I didn't, for the last two, I didn't even talk about how that implies or applies to the person on the receiving end. So briefly, just like you were saying, The same thing applies to the one receiving or the one on the receiving end of these good intentions. Do you realize that the same consequences, feedback that we talked about, the same communication that applies to the person with the intention also applies to the person receiving the actions of that good intention? It is important for you as the recipient to also bear in mind the consequences of those actions that you are receiving before you even receive them. It is important for you to communicate the right things or the feedback, give the accurate feedback of the actions that you are taking. If it's hurting you and you refuse to give that feedback, then guess what? They will continue to do that action and you will continue to be hurt. Good intentions, bad outcomes. And then when it comes to the hyper focus on the intentions, for the person receiving the good intention or the action of the good intention, do you realize that when you also become hyper focused on the action itself, you also miss out on the alignment or the motive behind those actions? And when you miss out on the motive behind those actions, then you will get the money, and instead of using it to buy food, you go and use it to buy another pair of shoes when you already had shoes. Why? Because you were hyper focused on the action you received rather than to be focused on the motive behind that action that you received. So this goes both ways, Sister Candice.
Yes. And I think, one of the things I'm thinking about right now is communication can be something that can bridge that gap between
that is why it's part of accountability.
Yes, that to bridge the gap between the one with the intention and the one who is receiving it. Yeah. What Dr. Joe has spoken about today has been a very powerful session. Good intentions, bad outcomes. And we've learned a lot. We've heard a lot. I believe it has clarified why some of our movements end up in a way that we didn't intend it to end up, right? And I believe these three things that Dr. Joe listed can be maybe a checklist for us when we are pursuing things or pursuing our agendas or plans in life and with people. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with making sure with the person you are doing something with, you are both on the same page. And I think that's one of the mistakes or misconceptions that, they know, they know why we are doing this. Or it's like you leave people to read your mind, right? We leave people to figure out why we are doing what we are doing. I mean, sometimes I've done this and people, no, it's okay. You don't have to explain it. No, I have to explain it. People are quick they don't want to hear your intention with that, what Dr. Joe said. They are so hyper-focused on what they are receiving that they're not thinking about why you are doing what you are doing. And that's fault right there. Is there not a cost to everything and every action, right? So I think it would be a good habit for us to cultivate in our relationship with people, a partnership with people, in everything that we are doing with people. Why is this person being good to me? Why is this person giving me this dollar? Why is this person this? Why is this person? And it's okay to ask, to clarify, because being aligned, we have learned, helps with the outcome that we actually want. So God bless you so much, Dr. Joe, with everything that you have spoken about today on today's episode. You all know, healing individuals, communities, nations, God willing, one episode at a time. And, it's been a blessing having you all. Don't forget to share with your loved ones. Follow our social media handles, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Hour of Healing. So don't forget, and we'll meet you same time next week, God willing. This has been a Good Intentions, Bad Outcomes. I believe we were both on the same page, you listeners out there, and us giving it to you, giving you guys this knowledge. So I think the outcome will be positive by God's grace. So Thank you and see you same time next week. Bye-bye.